talk about the attributes that help you to connect with people. The first attribute that I want to talk about is credibility. Great communicators possess credibility. And credibility, in essence, is just answering the question, why should we listen to you? If I can simplify it, it's just answering the question, why should we listen to you? When it comes to public speaking, when it comes to presentations, when it comes to meeting a new audience for the first time, your credibility, the question of your credibility must be answered within the first minute of speaking. First minute of speaking, because they will be asking why. Now, let me help us understand how we can do this. Credibility is built in 3 ways. Let's talk about those 3 ways. The first way to enhance and build your credibility is through maybe experience. Sometimes this is what you need to ask yourself before you speak in front of an audience. You need to ask yourself, what will enhance my credibility with them? Is it experience? If you have done something for the past 30 years, then maybe, and you've done it well, maybe that is what you need to talk about within that first minute of speaking to answer the question of credibility. The next way to build your credibility is through knowledge, formally acquired knowledge. And that is why people will stand up and they will introduce themselves as having or holding this title, right? People stand up and they tell you they're professor, they're what, these are the qualifications that they do hold, because you assume that once you stand up and say that you have formally worked, you formally studied, you formally worked to acquire certain knowledge, then automatically as an audience, what will we say? Then maybe we need to listen to you. Maybe you have some credibility to talk about an issue, and hoping that your delivery will then enhance your credibility. The third way of enhancing your credibility is through associations. Sometimes the way to build your credibility is based on your associations. So we've talked about those 3 ways, and this is how this works. After you have done audience analysis, remember we started by defining the audience analysis process. You then ask yourself, I need to conduct a credibility audit with an audience. I know who this audience is. I need to ask myself then, what between experience, between knowledge, and between associations will give me the utmost credibility with my audience? Now, if your answer is knowledge, then what will you do? That's what you invoke. Let me give you a trick that you can use. You can't be able to ask somebody who will be introducing you or who will be preceding you to be the one to introduce you and to enhance your credibility by saying certain things about you. So what does that do? It removes the burden of seeming to be this conceited person who is full of titles and wants to impress us by talking about themselves. Because what happens, human beings don't like people who just stand up and talk about themselves. It comes across as arrogant, and you'll say, what's such an arrogant speaker? Let me talk about the next attribute that you need to be able to have in order to communicate and connect. You need to be able to have authenticity. We found that authenticity is key. An authentic person is able to have congruence between their words and their non-verbal. The non-verbal signals that they give, they're able to have congruence. Sometimes you can speak, but your words are not, your body language is betraying you. So you've got to be authentic. And authenticity is about sometimes working a little hard to ensure that what you're saying is about, what you're saying, what you're presenting is really about yourself. It's who you are. If you want to connect with people, after you have done your analysis, your audience analysis between what you believe and what they do believe, in order to enhance likability with them, you need to figure out how do you narrow the gap between what you do believe, what your values probably are, and them. The other thing you need to be able to do in order to enhance likability when you stand in front of people is an old time tested thing of smiling. This has been researched, and it has been found that speakers who come across as friendly, who just stand up and smile, have a way of connecting with you. The other attribute that we have found good speakers have is knowledge. And knowledge has to do with content. The content of your delivery must be solid. And I want to give us a structure that we can be able to use when it comes to public speaking, on how to be able to develop your content. Every speech starts with an introduction. And your introduction should be something that is compelling. The vocal aspect of presentation also has to do with your diction, how you articulate, how you pronounce your words. Unfortunately, we live in an era where we are judged a lot from how we articulate, how we pronounce our words. It is possible to work on it in this, especially if you're moving into, somebody said, if you want to get into paid speaking, you don't have to change how your accent, you don't have to change how you speak, but you can work to ensure your words are a lot more clear and people are able to understand what you're saying. You can also learn to be expressive. Expressiveness is one vocal attribute that you need to be able to have. And expressiveness is just being able to convey the emotions behind the words. Great communicators are able to convey emotions through the way they deploy their voices. Let's talk about, we've talked about the visual, the vocal. Let me now focus a bit on the verbal. The verbal, I want to look at aspects like language. Audiences will expect you to be a master in whichever language you choose to speak. Whether it's your mother tongue, whether it's your father tongue, whether it's your uncle tongue, whether it's whichever tongue that you choose to speak, audiences don't like you to massacre language. This means become a master in whichever language you choose to speak in. Of course, this is dictated by your audience. Try as much as possible. Sometimes you might not really get to speak that language. It might not be your first language, but if you're going to deliver a presentation in that language, then try to get to a level in which you can communicate and in which your audience can be able to understand what you're saying. There are various techniques that you need to understand when it comes to the vocal delivery. One technique that works perfectly is storytelling. One technique that works perfectly is storytelling. I would like to challenge us that anytime we have a presentation, ensure that you tell a story. Remember we talked about those 3 points? If you can be able to find a story for each of the point, a story that connects. Of course, your story has to connect. It has to make sense. Don't tell us about Uganda while you're telling us something about your speech is about Nairobi, unless you are able to connect it and it makes sense. Stories are amazing. You know why stories connect with human beings? Stories connect because when human beings could not write, could not read and write, what did they use to convey? Stories. One attribute that you need to have as a communicator is goodwill. Now, what is goodwill? Goodwill is not that fee that you're asked to pay when you're renting a place and you're told. No, in the context of speaking, goodwill is just ensuring and demonstrating that you have the best interests at heart of your audience. As you do your credibility, as you enhance your credibility, you need to show your audience that you have their best interests at heart within the first minute of speaking. And the other attribute that you need to be able to have is passion. You know what? When you are passionate about what you're saying, what you're communicating, what you're articulating, your audience will connect with you. People love a passionate speaker. People love somebody who is wrapped up, tied up, tangled up in what they're saying, that they so much believe it, that I have witnessed and I've seen sometimes passion making up for lousy content. Passion is something that is of the essence. We will connect with you if we believe that you're passionate about what you're saying. Not everyone wants to get paid to speak. So we will respond to that if that is your area of need.